Hello everyone and welcome to the first bread loaf. Now for this video I'm going to start from the crust, meaning I'm going back to the basics. And for those of you who have watched my previous breadboard tutorials, you might say, you've already covered the basics, and you would be correct. However, there's been a lot of time between now and then, and breadboards have been updated. I've gotten a lot better as well, I think. And I think this format is going to work a lot better going forward. So I'm starting again from scratch. Now, this time I'm not going to go into the reasons why you would pick one breadboard over the other, because yes, there are two breadboard blocks. If you're interested in that, you can go back and watch the beginning of my first breadboard video. I'm going to put a link somewhere in the corner. Anyway, this time, I'm just going to tell you to default, you should probably default to the AI breadboard. So if you go into the building menu, I'm going to put on a mainframe because the AI breadboard requires a connection. Then pick the AI breadboard and connect it however you want. And then you press Q on it. You get this interface and you are ready to go. So how do you do anything with it? Well, you've got the actual bread part, which is empty right now. On the left side, and on the right side you have your list of spreads and jams. So all you need to do to place a component is left click on it and it will appear somewhere selected in green, and then you can use the right mouse button to move it around. If you place something else, that new component is selected and you can move it, and then you can left click again to go back or select any component you want, and then right click again to move it around. When I select different components, you should notice that the options on the right side are going to change. So in this case, I can change the value that is being outputted by this constant. And for this propulsion output, I can control which axis is being output to or controlled by the breadboard. So if I put forwards and back, it will control the forwards and back axis. Now, how do I get it to do anything? Well, you need to connect the pins together. Now, this is what I'm talking about, these pins. So in this case, the pins on the right side are outputs, and pins on the left side of the components are inputs. Now, there's two ways to connect them. You can either right-click directly from your selected component to the component you want to output to, or you can actually select the individual pin and right-click that pin. And there we go. And as you can see, immediately my tank is now accelerating. So I'm going to disconnect that, just like that. The reason it's important to know that you can connect different pins specifically is because some components will have different purposes for each pin. In this case, now that I've placed this one, you can future home here. Past Home is about to talk about the scroll wheel, but that reminded me I forgot to mention one of the more recent features, holding left click and dragging to move around. That's right, we had to wait a while, but it's here now. Back to my younger self. Zoom in with the scroll wheel to make it a little bit easier to mouse over the components. And as you can see right here, there's a tooltip that says if there is a target, it's going to be 1. If there is no target, it's going to be 0. And then the second pin is different. This time it will output the distance to your target. This one will output the distance, not the distance, but your target's altitude in meters. And finally, the fourth pin outputs the target's bearing relative to your own vehicle. So 0 is dead ahead, 90 is exactly on your right, minus 90 is exactly on your left, and 180 is directly behind you. This is super important. And basically how you get the breadboard to do anything is that you use this top batch of components to get information about your vehicle, your environment, your target, or whatever. And then you use the components that are in this section below it to do operations, to compare things and whatever, and then output the result to an output, basically. And you can get it to do a lot of different things. And what's nice about it is that the values can be dynamic as well. So you can change your altitude to numbers that change over time. which allows you, for example, to do something like matching altitude with your target. Next up is math evaluators. These are the butter to your bread. They are extremely powerful. I will only cover the basics for now, but this is how you do the really cool stuff. Now, as you can see, by default, it says A times B. What does that do? How does that work? Well, if I put a constant here that says 2 and connect it to the top pin, as you can see, the tooltip says A. So the top pin is 1, and now it's 2. And if I add an input, this input is now B. So add another constant, set it to 3, and connect it to this, and now I've got 2 times 3, and we can check that by putting down a printer and connecting it, and there we go. This is 6. So you can put up to 5 inputs, and that would be A, B, C, D, and E, and you can do all kinds of math with that. You can also put a comma and put another value, and if you add a second output, that is going to be 1. And if I add another comma and say 8, add a third output, a third printer, and a little bit of lag, and you can see that the third output is now 8. So basically, if you use commas like that, you can have multiple operations with the same information in one math evaluator. You can also use math evaluators to create if expressions. There's 2 ways to do that. The first is to do something like A equal 2, question mark. If that's true, then I'll put 1, colon, else 2. And as you can see, the first one is now 1 because A is equal 2. But if I change it to 3, as you can see, it now outputs 2. There's also typing if like this and putting things in parentheses, and then you use commas between your things. So in this case, it would be if A is equal to 2, output 1, else output 2. And then you can use the same previous example and put another comma and say, for example, if B equals 3, then output, I don't know, 3, if not 4. Oops, that would help if I put in the right character and close the parenthesis. And suddenly you can see that this output is different. So these are the very basics. If you click on it, you can see that there is a documentation function, and yeah, there is a lot that you can do with math evaluators. Now, I won't go into more detail on this for this video, but I will definitely be explaining the functions that you need for specific applications in future videos. So that's going to be it for now. So please consider liking and subscribing if you find my videos helpful. Leave a comment if you have questions or suggestions. And for now, I'm going to wish you good luck baking your own baguettes. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.